And we are live. Welcome in to the Week 14 edition. God, the season's going by fast, fellas. The SuperDraft Sunday Study here in Week 14. Presented to you by FTNDaily.com. My name is Zac Graham, a.k.a. Kawaisenberg, DFS. And I'm joined by two of the sharpest SuperDraft minds in the industry, two good friends here at FTN Daily. Javi Prellezo, Joe Metz. We'll start with you, Javi. Your Cowboys taking on the Washington football team today. How you feeling?
Oh man, I feel great. You know, they're gonna stomp them. You think Taylor Heineke is going to beat Dak Prescott? God, I can't wait for somebody to record this show and send this back to me when Washington wins by 14. But no, man, I got the jersey on. Tenacious D Jones got me that. I don't know where I'm pointing, but got me that Dak Prescott jersey because I want to bet. You know, it's Dak season, Dak Street Boys, as I like to call it.
Ooh. Hey, we'll see that game going off here in about 2 hours, and then Joe Metz, Mr. Wisconsin. Packers got the night game tonight, but your Milwaukee Bucks tipping off here in about an hour. So a big day for you, Joe, and we haven't done a stream for a while together, so it's good to see you. How you been?
Good, and we have two streams together today.
True,
so we have this one and
Ooh.
NBA later this afternoon. So a double dose of the Dream Stream. Excited to kind of be back for the Week 14 of the NFL. Like you said, this season has absolutely flown by.
Yeah, man. It's looking at my season-long leagues, fighting for the playoffs in a couple spots today. Got it sewn up in some other leagues, so should be an exciting day of NFL football. But let's get down to it. We're only here for a half hour, as we are every Sunday, breaking down the slate from a SuperDraft perspective. And this isn't obviously the only piece of SuperDraft content we've got here at FTN Daily. We've got all kinds of NFL stuff weekly. I think I'm usually the one that kicks it off, I think, fellas, with the Tuesday night little preview video. Vlad Sedler, who's still on vacation, shout out Vlad. He'll be back with us soon. His slate breakdown, kind of the meat of the meal, right? The SuperDraft meal every week. And then, Joe, I know you've got your top plays article that comes out to start the weekend. So all of the SuperDraft-oriented content at FTN Daily is free. Not just your NFL content, the NBA SuperDraft content as well. So a great place to kind of start your research and then end your research for SuperDraft here with us on a Sunday. You can sign up over at FTN Daily. Obviously, all of that SuperDraft content for free, but any other FTN package, you can sign up and get 15% off with the code FTNTV. And of course, this is the SuperDraft Sunday Study. So if you haven't played on SuperDraft before, we also have a comprehensive site review of SuperDraft on FTN Daily. And you can read through that. Go over to superdraft.io when you get registered and sign up. You use the code FTN. Any deposit of $100 or more is going to give you $100 in bonus funds. So boom, $200 in your bankroll. You can get there, get started on SuperDraft. So without further ado, let's jump into some of the plays for this week. And there's multiple game modes on SuperDraft. We're dealing with the main game mode, Multiplier. We're dealing with multipliers instead of your typical salary cap structure. But SuperDraft also has a game mode that came out earlier this season called Super 15. So, fellas, we've been breaking down the Super 15 grid every week, and here's the grid for Week 14's main slate. So, Javi, I'm going to start with you. Looking at this grid, you know the structure here, right? We've got $15 to build the best lineup possible. So, when you look at this grid, Javi, what stands out to you?
Oh man, I think I'm gonna repeat myself 100 times today, and I'm gonna keep pointing that jersey there. But it's Dak Street. They're back. All right. See what I did there? No, I'm just kidding. Dak Prescott. All right. It's Dak Prescott. $4. I think he should be $5. He's going against Washington football team, the footballs, and I can't emphasize how much I like Dak today in this spot. I love the multiplier for him too. He's not a 1x, he's a 1.1x, but Washington is tied for the most passing touchdowns allowed in the NFL, and they've allowed the fourth most passing yards. And we just got news that Tony Pollard is out. which is pretty big. Obviously that gives a big boost to Zeke, but they haven't been giving him a heavy workload, so maybe more relying on Dak Prescott going against this pass defense. So yeah, $4 Dak Prescott, sign me up.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, and we'll get to Tony Pollard and what that does for Zeke and the rest of these Cowboys here in a minute. But Joe, looking over this grid, anything else stand out to you as kind of a priority when building a Super 15 lineup today?
Hunter Renfrow at $2, I think is one of the best bargains across the industry on any site. Like, he has been an absolute target hog with Darren Waller out. I think it was either 5 games in a row, at least 100 yards or a touchdown. Right now, like, he is absolutely going bonkers. And the thing is, like, this Chiefs defense has tightened the screws a bit, but more so downfield where Renfrow thrives is the slot. You don't even need a touchdown. At his price at $2, you don't need a touchdown given his volume. So he can easily rack up 8 catches, 110 yards with no touchdown. You are fine. So Renfrow, I love quite a bit, but I think the Cowboys are a bit underpriced on this grid as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess the only thing I would add to that $2 level that you're talking about, it's a bummer that Elijah Moore hit the IR for the Jets. Like, the Jets aren't doing much in terms of, the real life football, but Elijah Moore had been such a great fantasy asset, both in daily formats and in season long. So a bummer to see him go out there. But let's go ahead and move into the multiplier plays for this week. Again, we're dealing with multipliers rather than that typical salary cap structure here on SuperDraft. So, Joe, let me stay with you. Starting, as always, with the quarterback position, what are you prioritizing under center?
So my attention first just jumps straight to Taysom Hill at 1.25x. Like, we've had this conversation last year when he started 4 games. We've had this a similar kind of conversation about Jalen Hurts this year. Like, he doesn't have to be a quarterback that you think will help the franchise win games. Like, he went 19 for 40 last week, literally completion percentage below 50%, rushed for over 100 yards, and still had over 25 fantasy points. Like, he has everything you want in a fantasy producing quarterback. And because of that, like, the mallet finger doesn't bother me because of his rushing equity. Like, Alvin Kamara being back, I don't think hurts his rushing equity with Mark Ingram out. So there's not, like, the split backfield now won't be Ingram and Kamara. I think it'll be Ingram and Taysom Hill. So Taysom Hill at 1.25 is one of my priorities, but then I also like Dak at 1.1. I'll let Javi dive into Dak and the Dak Street boys. And I like Herbert at 1.2. I think one interesting trend I've seen, not just on SuperDraft, just across the industry this week, so much attention is on Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, Jared Cook, but no one's talking about Justin Herbert. Like, if you have so much interest in the pass catchers and the offensive pieces, why wouldn't you want the quarterback, especially if he's going to come in lower owned than all of these other guys? Just complete that stack and immediately differentiate your lineup. I think Herbert, even without Keenan Allen, has one of the top ceilings on the slate against this Giant secondary.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Some good team totals there. But you look at the game total for Javi, the Cowboys and the Washington football team sitting at 48 last time I checked. So breakdown, again, you mentioned Tony Pollard now out for the Cowboys. So is that going to hurt Dak, or is it just kind of irrelevant? He's got so many weapons around him still.
I think it's irrelevant. We saw Dak struggle a little bit when he lost his receiving core, like Cooper and Lamb when they were banged up. But both those guys are in. Gallup is back. He still has Dalton Schultz. He still has a ton of receiving weapons. Plus, they could rely on Zeke a little bit more. He's going to be a great tournament play. Our very own Kyle Murray's talking about that he could shape up as one of the best tournament plays on the slate, which I agree. But Dak Prescott 1.1x in this matchup is just so great. Again, I'm not going to touch on it, but Washington has allowed the most passing touchdowns. That's an important stat. And if you think that's a little fluky, they've allowed the 4th most passing yards. So the way you beat them is in the air. They're fine. I mean, they allow a decent amount on the ground too, but you beat them through the pass. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, they're 1x multiplier, so it's not my favorite. But obviously they have smash matchups in my opinion too, so you can't ignore those guys. But a sneaky one I want to touch on real quick is when Two Gun speaks, we listen, right? Or when Two Gun writes, we listen. He talked about Teddy Bridgewater. Listen, I've played Teddy Bridgewater negative times this season, all right? And this might be the first time that I actually play him. It just shapes up to be a great matchup. He's going against Detroit, guys. Detroit got their first win. Hooray. Good for you. Sorry, Kyle. I have to roast your Detroit Lions. They're not good. So Teddy Bridgewater, 1.5x multiplier. He's got weapons there to be slate breaking, but it is Teddy Bridgewater. It is risky, but he's a great tournament play, especially at 1.5x.
Yeah, I think to your point, when Two Gun talks, we listen, or writes, as you said. It's a good idea to at least dive a little deeper into some of those plays because I think his results speak for themselves. Before we move off of quarterback, the main event chiming in here, asking us thoughts on Cam Newton. He's at 1.4x with that multiplier, and obviously Christian McCaffrey sidelined on the IR for the rest of the season. Decent matchup against the Atlanta Falcons today. Javi, any interest in Cam there?
Yeah, no, I think he's pretty fine. It's like almost the identical to, I'm not saying he is Taysom Hill, but almost identical to Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill has a great matchup. I like him a lot. I like Cam too. He's going to be part of my quarterback pool. He just missed the cut. Try to just focus on my highest exposure guys, but I will have some to Cam Newton. That matchup against the Falcons is too great.
Joe, Panthers favored by 2.5. You on Cam at all?
Tough because my appeal to Cam is that rushing equity. Mm-hmm. And I know that him and Taysom Hill have different multipliers, but I feel much safer about Taysom Hill's rushing equity right now. Maybe I have just the jitters after last week. Cam Newton just completely imploded after a ceiling game. But if there's a time to go back to him, this is it. When his multiplier goes back up, the field is off of him. So I think he's fine. He's not in my 3 lineup pool right now, but it's definitely, if I was running 5 lineups, I definitely want a Cam Newton.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think I'm kind of with you guys. Taysom Hill would still be my lean out of those two. I guess we'll put him in quotes, quarterbacks there. So let's go ahead and jump to running back. And Joe, I'll stick with you. You mentioned your love for the Chargers. So What about Austin Eckler?
Yeah, a 10% scoring boost on a player that already gets 20 touches per game. You know, the big knock on Eckler going into the season was he doesn't score touchdowns, and that's all he's doing this year. Keenan Allen out. I do think, there is so much love on Mike Williams, and I can't shy away from why Mike Williams is a good play. But there is a path to failure here. You know, James Bradbury is probably the one respectable corner in New York that I think could not necessarily shut him down, but give him issues. And he's not in that slot role where he's going to be a quick read every play. That's why I kind of think Austin Eckler is going to be the popular first read for Justin Herbert. There's a lot of target equity to pick up, and I think Austin Eckler could be the number one option instead of Mike Williams. So I like Austin Eckler a lot. I've been going back and forth between him and Zeke with Tony Pollard out because we saw, I think they said Tony Pollard tore a ligament in his foot earlier in the week, and that's why he was projected out for the whole week. It seems like SuperDraft got ahead of it and priced Zeke at 1.1. I just don't know if in a vacuum I can take Zeke over Eckler. So if I'm spending up with a low multiplier, it's Eckler.
And you talk about Eckler scoring all the touchdowns this year. Even other teams, I don't remember back, I think it was the Browns. They carried him into the end zone for his 3rd touchdown back in week 4 or 5. So not just his own team helping him get in the end zone this year. But Javi, when you look at the running back position, obviously Joe spoke about Zeke. We know Pollard is out. But how about on the other side of this game? Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick's still out. Antonio Gibson's been getting a ton of touches lately. So are you on him? A 1.25x on SuperDraft.
Oh, yeah, I love Antonio Gibson. He's one of my favorite run backs. So, when I play a stack, I usually like to do a run back. Gibson's the one that stands out to me at 1.25x. You can go Terry McLaurin as well from the wide receiver end, but I think one of those two is essential, especially in a Dak stack, which is what I'm focusing on mainly. Joe mentioned Eckler, great spot, 1.1x. Kamara, great at 1x. But the guy I'm looking at is the ultimate tournament play. It's Leonard Fournette. This guy's been on fire. I don't know if anybody realizes, but he has taken over the reins in a 3-headed monster. And not only that, I'm going to keep quoting our FTN Daily family, but Derek Brown a few weeks ago said, the Bills' run defense they haven't been tested. And I see them as frauds too. Maybe, people are going to quote this out too, but they've allowed 220 plus rushing yards in 2 of their last 3. I get last week or Monday night, it was kind of crazy with the win, but against Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he has a great O-line. Tampa Bay has a great O-line, and Leonard Fournette's on fire. So I love Leonard Fournette at 1.2x. I'm going to have so much this weekend. It hurts because I don't want to play Tommy Brady and his team, but Fournette's going to be my boy at 1.2x.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's really just that whole Buccaneers team, right? Highest game total on the slate up against Buffalo. And let's hope that our buddy Adam Pfeiffer not tuning in to hear us besmirching his Buffalo Bills. Joe, I know you got a couple other guys that you're targeting here, but Charlie, good to see Charlie again. Asking kind of at the top here, Kamara obviously a lower multiplier, but Joe, would you Antonio Gibson or Alvin Kamara today?
I would Antonio Gibson because of the multiplier, especially if J.D. McKissic is still expected to be sidelined. Like Gibson is approaching that 30 touch per game, like 3-down roll plus goal line work. He's getting an Alvin Kamara workload with a multiplier relative to Kamara. Both are great plays, but if I had to choose one, I'd definitely choose Antonio Gibson. I would just expect him to be a little more popular.
Javi, you with Joe on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's close again. It's Kamara against the Jets, and we target the Jets all season, but I'm a little worried about Kamara because Taysom Hill's there. Like if any other quarterback was there, I'd say, yeah, load up on Kamara this weekend with that 1x multiplier. But I'm a little concerned with Taysom Hill vulturing potentially some rushing touchdowns. So, yeah, give me Gibson.
So, Joe, we talked about McKissic still being out for Washington. So Antonio Gibson gets the little bump there. Mm-hmm. Some other running backs, though, especially out west, I guess the depth chart's shrinking. You look at the Raiders, Kenyon Drake with that ankle injury out. San Fran, Elijah Mitchell, right? Concussion that was reported the day after the game.
He came back in that game. Like they cleared him to come back.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, man, concussions are. There's really no like straightforward line on how you can deal with them.
Especially in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully Elijah Mitchell is back because he's been fantastic for fantasy managers. But I mean, Jeff Wilson, right? Like 1.55x. You finding any interest there, or who else are you targeting?
I like Jeff Wilson for 1.55. He's on in my pool. He's not my core play at a higher multiplier. It's actually Josh Jacobs at 1.4. And I have been probably the biggest Josh Jacobs critic for the last 2 years, but he's really found new life. He was one of the pillars I wrote in my article. He had 9 catches on 9 targets last week. He's had 6 games this season with at least 1 receiving touchdown, which is unheard of given the last 2 years we saw his lack of work in the receiving role. And he's had 2 straight games now, with at least 20 touches. Obviously, not only is Kenyon Drake out for the rest of the year, Jalen Richard is on the COVID list. So there is really no competition for touches right now. Because of that lack of competition for touches, because of his expanded role in the receiving game, I'm not really as concerned about game script as I would have been a few weeks ago when Kenyon Drake was still very involved in the passing game. Like Josh Jacobs has shown the ability to kind of take those reins, so I don't think he's really dependent on the script. And at 1.4x, I think this offense is going to funnel through him and Hunter Renfrow. So I like him a lot on this slate.
Yep.
Javi, anybody else for you at running back before we move to the wide receivers?
No, I love the Josh Jacobs call. I like both him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire from the same game at 1.4x. Again, if you're not going to play Mahomes or Hill or Kelsey, the way you get the exposure to that is with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm not going to touch too much on it because we're a little short on time, but this Vegas team, bottom of the barrel run defense. Edwards-Helaire, he's been a guy will usually get 12 or more carries here. Obviously, we want a little bit more, but if they get a lead, maybe they rely more on this. We've seen some crazy stuff from the Chiefs offense this year, but Helaire, Jacobs are the 2 guys I focus. I love that Jacobs call. I have a ton of exposure, Joe, so good call.
Okay.
Shifting to the wideouts here, Javi, I'll stick with you. I know we're going to hear some Cowboys wideouts here, but where else are you looking at the wide receiver position?
Yeah, no, I need that button. The how about them Cowboys? Maybe I need to find that for next show. But yeah, I mean, both CeeDee Lamb and Cooper at 1.3x are going to be my focal points here. But CeeDee Lamb is the preference if you want one or the other. Other guys that I like, I mentioned I like Josh Allen at 1x, and that's because I love the matchup here, but I also love Cole Beasley. He's a guy here that I feel is in a great matchup. So at 1.5x with that multiplier, I think Diggs is another guy. He should be at a 1x multiplier always, but he's perfectly fine here. Like if you want to go Josh Allen with Beasley and Diggs, or even Emmanuel Sanders, which we have the narrative with Demaryius Thomas, who unfortunately passed this weekend. Good friends with Demaryius Thomas, so could be a narrative there. Plus, Emmanuel Sanders, he's 3rd in red zone targets for this Bills team, which enters the red zone quite a bit. So I do like either one, and they're going against Tampa. Like, there's going to be a heavy focus on the passing game. So any of these pieces from the Bills or the Cowboys, the thing I'm a little worried about here, I like Mike Williams too. I know Joe mentioned to him, I'll have a ton of exposure at 1.4x, but I don't like Bradbury on him. So, I mean, again, maybe Mike Williams, he's quite the athletic receiver. Maybe he's matchup proof, but it's not the easiest matchup for him. So I am a little concerned here, but at 1.4x with no Keenan Allen, you got to load up on him. So those are the guys I'll have the heaviest exposure to.
Joe, I know you talked about your love for the Chargers today. Yep. Obviously, some Mike Williams interest for you, but with Keenan Allen out, as Javi mentioned, any interest in some of the guys further down the depth chart?
Josh Palmer at 2x is really enticing. I think Derek made a really good observation in his game by game. Jalen Guyton isn't a bad receiver, but he's not a slot like volume role receiver. Where Keenan Allen, when he leaves the slot, it's probably going to be Josh Palmer that fills in. So you look at a guy like Jalen Guyton, whose targets are going to be a little more volatile. He's going to be more reliant on the big play and has a less attractive multiplier than a guy that could be stepping into 8 to 10 targets. We don't know. But 2x, like, say he gets 5 receptions, 60 yards on 8 targets. That alone right there is almost 15 fantasy points because of the multiplier. So I think he comes with a nice level of security for the role that we are expecting. I see the comment, Palmer over Williams. I do think that Palmer will have a bigger percentage increase on his targets just because he doesn't get any already. But James Bradbury is a good corner. I mentioned that is the path to failure for Mike Williams, but Mike Williams is a massive receiver. And we saw what he can do with more volume earlier in the season, and he was consistently putting up 20-plus raw fantasy points a game. I do expect us to get back to that Mike Williams. So I like him a lot. But my pivot off of a 1.4x Mike Williams, it's risky, but it's a 1.45x Julio Jones. Expected back, no A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
This Jacksonville defense is really bad. Shaquille Griffin, is probably the best thing they have going for them. He's shadowed 3 receivers, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman. I'm missing the other one. He's shut them down for the most part, gave up 2 touchdowns to DK Metcalf, but this is a perennial, this is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I know Julio Jones isn't what he was in Atlanta, but there is no competition for targets. Derrick Henry's out, so they're not going to run the ball 30 times with Julio Jones active, and he should have a red zone role. So I'd like to think that Julio Jones is still capable of capitalizing on a matchup that even is a little difficult. 1.45x is acceptable for me. I like both the Dallas receivers at 1.3. I like Hunter Renfrow a lot at 1.4. And then I like Chris Godwin at 1.25 in a matchup that I expect to have a lot of points between Buffalo and Tampa.
Javi, anybody else at wide receiver that you want to hit on before we move to tight end?
I love Mike Evans quite a bit. He's a great one-off for Tampa. I mentioned my love for that Bills game, and it goes on both ends. But again, Leonard Fournette's my focus. But if you want exposure from Tampa, there's going to be some scoring in this game, even with the defense behind the Bills. Their pass defense is a little bit better than their run defense, but they're banged up there. So Mike Evans makes sense. If you want to go Chris Godwin, he's perfectly fine too. But a guy that Joe mentioned, Josh Palmer 2x. I love taking shots at him, and then Renfrow, he is a funnel there. So I can see the Raiders, if they're not going to pound the ball on the ground with Josh Jacobs, it's going to be funneled to Renfrow most likely at that 1.4x multiplier.
Let me stir the pot a little bit here. I heard you're talking Mike Evans. Joe said Chris Godwin. They're both 1.25x.
We need Vlad. We need Vlad in here right now.
Listen, Tenacious D Jones just came into chat and put a picture of Mike Evans in there. So I'm just saying, since he said it, I win the tiebreaker. I'm sorry, Joe. Maybe a lunch bet.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. You get a little lunch bet.
Let's lunch bet. I'm undefeated against Javi in lunch bets. That's NBA this year. So let's do an NFL. Do you just want? I guess they're 1.25x on both. So
whoever scores more. Whoever scores more.
That guy won. Let's do it.
Yeah, Evans won. All right. Today's Steve Jones is on my side. He got me that jersey. Dak Street Boys.
There we go. Let's move to tight end here. So Javi, let's go ahead and stick with you. we're talking all about Tampa Bay. Gronkowski's still sitting there at 1.25x. I assume you have some interest there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's tough not to like Gronkowski. Again, I like this Tampa team, even in a tough-ish matchup. But, Bills are frauds. This is something that people need to realize. That strength of schedule has been good for them, and they're showing their true colors. But Gronk here, he's seen 8 or more targets in 3 straight games. It's back to him and Tommy Brady's show. I like Gronk, 1.25x, but I love a lot of the higher multipliers here in this spot. So, our boy Derek Brown mentioned Gerald Everett, 1.65x. Similar to Two Gun, when Derek Brown speaks, we listen. I like that. And then 2 other great multipliers that I like here. Austin Hooper, 1.65x. I think he's going to be chalky. There's no other tight ends, no Harrison Bryant, no Njoku. It's going to be focused on the Hooper show. And we know Baker Mayfield stinks, so he dumps it down a lot. So Hooper at 1.65x. And the last is Logan Thomas is out for the year. So Ricky Seals-Jones, he's back in our radar, 1.85x multiplier. Dallas has struggled in defending the tight end all season. So if you want exposure as a bring back, if you don't want to go Gibson, waste your running back spot, or McLaurin, who I did touch on in the receivers, I do like too. Ricky Seals-Jones, 1.85x, load up.
Joe, tight ends for you as Tenacious D Jones tagging you, Javi, saying Gronkowski, born in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So Tenny D loves himself a narrative.
That's it.
For the game. That's the question.
Hey, Tenacious D Jones spoke again, guys. We listen.
Oh yeah. All right, Joe, tight ends for you.
If I'm paying up for a lower multiplier, I'm probably going George Kittle at 1.2.
Yeah.
I think even with Debo expected back, he should see a massive share, and I'm hoping that touchdown equity carries over. That was his first multi-touchdown game of his career last game, so I'm hoping it starts a bit of a trend. If I am looking to spend down, understand that Austin Hooper is probably generating a lot of steam right now as the only healthy tight end in Cleveland. I like Gerald Everett as a lateral pivot at 1.65. He has really taken over the tight end 1 role in Seattle right now. Since week 10, he's posted a higher target share than Tyler Lockett. He's run 114 total routes while Will Dissly has only run 51. And he has more red zone targets and he's also tied with Tyler Lockett in touchdowns, while DK Metcalf has not scored since week 10. So I think this role is legit. The routes, the targets, and the usage just all add up to this being not being a fluke, I should say. So I think to get different with a high upside punt, I think Everett is my favorite.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And some eye-popping numbers there in terms of the routes run with the Seahawks. Let's go ahead and move in. We'll move on to the top stacks, close it out for week 14. Joe, I'll stick with you. I think I know where we're going here, but tell me your top stacks for week 14.
So Dallas and Washington is a top stack for me. I'm in the camp that if I'm stacking this game, I want to single stack Dak, because I think a lot of people are actually going to double stack given the multiplier. So I want to go Dak, CD, and then run it back with Antonio Gibson and maybe Terry McLaurin. But I also, because of my love for the Chargers, I really like the idea of pairing 2 of the pass catchers. I would include Austin Eckler in those pass catchers with a Justin Herbert. And you can run that back with Saquon Barkley if you want, but that's a stack that I don't think you need to run back with.
Javi, what about you? Priority stacks here in week 14.
I don't know. Who do you think, Zach? I haven't talked about it much. No, Dak with CD and Cooper is who I like. Again, CD is my focus point here. So if you want to go Gallup or Cooper, I'm fine with either one. For me, it is Cooper. But Gallup's got that great multiplier. And bring it back. Bring it back with Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, or Gibson. Gibson, we talked about his heavy workload, especially with no J.D. McKissick. So I like that. And then a sneaky little stack here. I mentioned Teddy Bridgewater. You can go Teddy Bridgewater and Jerry Judy. You combine the best of Two Gun with the best of Tenacious D Jones, who wrote up Jerry Judy. So there you go. I combined 2 goats together.
I love to hear that. I love it. Two of the sharpest minds there in Two Gun and Tenacious D Jones.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us this week. Our half hour is up, but a few reminders on your way out. First of all, if you're an NFL subscriber at ftndaily.com, Debro and Kyle the Opto Extraordinaire, going live for the next hour, taking you up to lock on NFL DFS Live. And if you haven't signed up yet, at ftndaily.com. You can use the promo code FTNTV. It's going to get you 15% off your subscription there. So if you haven't signed up, come check us out. When you get into the Discord, tag myself, tag Joe, tag Javi. Let us know you're here. We would love to have you. Sign up at superdraft.io using the promo code FTN for a $100 deposit bonus on any deposit of $100 or more. And we'll be back next week, as we are every week here on the SuperDraft Sunday Study presented by FTNDaily.com. Fellas, good luck today. Everybody tuning in. Good luck in your contests. So for Joe, for Javi, I'm Zach. We appreciate you tuning in this week, and good luck in your contest. See you guys later.
Dak Street's back.